Several weeks ago, my friend Lance Baltzley had called asking if I would be able to cast a way cover for his jig bore. This is the machine here. I said, yeah, go ahead and send it up. He sent me an actual casting to use as the pattern. There's two of them there on the table. And they would bolt onto this interface here directly over the way on both sides. And this is the casting he sent. It had holes in it, so I had to fill those up with Durham's water putty in order to keep it from grabbing the sand when I get ready to pull it from the mold. I'm using a funnel here to help concentrate the finest grains right where I want them. If I don't use a funnel, I'm slinging sand all over, and it takes 10 times longer to get past this step of it. Once I've gotten that down, I don't have to worry with the next level and the third level of sieving. All that is for is just to lock the facing sand in place or weight it down before I really bank it up. I don't want to get this first layer of sand too high or too low. I do expect it to compress several inches as I've rammed it, and so it's going to be pretty close to the pattern by the time I'm done with this first pass. Always going around the edges or the perimeter first. It may appear like I'm beating this pretty good, but I'm actually not. I'm just keeping a good firm hand on the ram, and you just want to keep good even pressure. You don't want to hit it too hard in one place and not hard enough in another. That will cause the sand to shift, to crack, and weaken it. Now, on the drag of every flask, I always want to get that as tight as I can all the way up to the top. The reason for that is when I flip it over around the cope and I'm beating the sand on the top half of it, I'm beating down on the drag, and if it's loose, if it's not tight enough, it'll actually knock chunks out of the bottom of your mold, and you don't want that. The weather the past week or so here has been awesome. I can't complain. My tin oven that I'm working in out there has been pleasant. Of course, it won't last long. We're going to have a couple more hot days ahead, and then all of a sudden it'll set in the dead winter. It's going to skip fall altogether. With that said, and I think I mentioned it before on my previous video or Instagram somewhere, I can't remember, but I am going to have a climate controlled molding room coming very soon. I don't want to be out there freezing to death in the wintertime and dying from heat exhaustion during the summer. I'm tired of this mess, so I want to make my life a little more pleasant since I spend a lot of it out there. Now that I've rammed this, I have to coat down a little bit. The one end particularly. This is the flanged end, and the lip goes around, and then there is no lip across on that one end, so you have to I coat about a 45-degree bank there for that, and now I'm going to take my thumbs and I'm going to press and firm that sand up all the way around the perimeter of this casting, just to strengthen it. I only planned to do this one time, so I wanted to make sure I didn't have any kind of defects. Now once I get through pressing it down, I'm going to go back with my slick and I'm going to resurface that and get a good clean parting line down past that rolled radius to the side of it. And hopefully that'll eliminate any flashing, or at least minimize the grinding time. Once I finish this step, I'll blow that sand out of the way, and then I'm going to sprinkle some parting dust on there as a visual aid to keep my eye on the casting and the sand to the side of it. The parting dust will aid in detecting a fine crack in between the two. Without it, you wouldn't see it. Because I don't want to overwrap this pattern, especially at this stage. I just want to go ahead, and the object of this is to loosen any parting line sand particles on that edge that could still hook when I go to remove this pattern before I ram the coat, if that makes sense. So what I'm doing here is I'm just loosening the perimeters of sand, blowing those out of the way, and that should leave me with zero flashing. I'm going to set my riser closer to that flanged end because there's more thickness there, or more volume. I'm going to bring it back just a little bit. Give me at least a 3/4 of an inch clearance between the casting and it. I was attacked once again on my wooden flask. I just wanted to explain something about these wooden flasks. I've used these probably close to 200 times so far, each one of them 200 times. And they work great. And I'm probably going to get at least that many more times out of them. They're not the best looking flask. I don't care what they look like. It's the end result that counts. You know, after you've done enough molding, it doesn't matter what the flask looks like. You'll learn how to work around it. I've got divots and charred wood all over these things. It doesn't hurt a thing. And as I've said, you can't burn charred wood. It doesn't burn twice. As long as it'll still hold together, it's fine. Now on the cope, as I said a while ago, I'm not worried about getting the sand as hard, ramming it as hard up here. I do want to get it to a certain degree, but I don't want to have it as hard as a rock either. Alright, we're ready to cut our sprue, or a pouring spout, whatever y'all want to call it. The proper terminology for that is a sprue. The pouring basin goes on top of the sprue. I'll let you get a good look at how charred these boards are, and it's doing just fine. And it turned out really clean around the outside perimeters. The inside had just a few little particles of sand there, but keep in mind I'm using an actual casting as a pattern, so it's not going to pull perfectly clean. And since this is the only time I did this pattern, I wasn't sure exactly which would have been the best way to wrap it. I would prefer to have gotten some swings to the left and right. I did have an area I could wrap it, but I hate getting that close to the sand, especially with that very thin margin. I only had like 1.5 inches of sand separating the casting from the flask, and you get any less than that, if you touch that sand or disturb it in any way, you could spring a leak quick. So I always try to be very careful about that. It's moving, but it's not coming up yet. So that means I've got to wrap it to the left and right, because that water putty that I put in there, is careful as I was about applying it, I still had some small air bubbles in there that were exposed to the side, to the outside, that were catching the sand grains and hooking it, so to speak. So that was making it difficult. These are earth magnets, by the way. Seems like the smaller they are, the stronger. But this is where I have to be very careful. You see what I'm talking about? One slip of that, and I hit the sand, and okay, we're going to try this again, and it's going to come out this time. But I did have one little corner break, and you'll see that in just a second. Because of the overall condition of the mold, which looked great, I'm going to go with that and just grind that out later. All right, now I'm cutting my runner. And now the gates. I knew I was going to put 3 in here, but I wanted to go ahead and get the 2 on the ends first and then split the difference to find my center line for that second one. Yeah. All right, after I get through with this, I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to lightly touch that sand on the corner where the cavity, where the intersection of the cavity and the gate is. I don't want any sharp corner there. I want to get rid of that for 2 reasons. The first reason is that's a very fragile spot. Iron would wash that possibly into the mold. The second reason is I don't want any hot tear. If you have a sharp internal corner like that, without a rolled edge, without any kind of small radius there, that iron will chill and it will tear the iron sometimes, not every time. As thin as this is, it probably wouldn't have done it, but just out of habit, I always do everything consistently. Alright. Now I'm getting rid of that parting dust where the iron's going to be flowing from the cope side. I don't want to chance washing any of that dust into the material. And when I get ready to do the cope, I'm going to blow off that area where the runner would be on the drag against this in order to keep that sealing of the runner from having any parting dust as well. Now, my sprue did not go all the way through. You can see slightly to the left up this little mound. I'm going to take my vent wire. I'm going to poke through the center of that mound, and then I'm going to swirl it around and open that hole up. And now I'm going to go ahead and vent it, which was overkill. I could have got away with 4 vents, but I decided, you know, what the heck, go ahead and vent it all the way up. Okay, so now I've got to connect the sprue to the riser. If I don't do that, I've defeated the purpose. Alright, so I've opened that up to the riser. The riser will fill the runner, and the runner will fill the gates, and the gates will fill the cavity. As I was saying, I'm getting rid of all that parting dust as much as I can, along with where the runner is. And from here, we turn around and cut the pouring basin. The molding process goes a lot faster when I don't have to redo it several times, doesn't it? Yeah, and just a precautionary measure, always turn it around and hit the other side one more time. Now, if you notice, I kept that cope flat, parallel to the surface as I walk up to the drag and then put it down. That way, if I have any grains left, they don't fall in the drag. Everybody look at that eye. It's getting better. like a good casting. Oh yeah. Yep. Lance will be happy to see this. Alright, so let's clean it up. On the mold, I had some sand break off right on that corner. Worked that down, then I hammered it a little bit with the needle scaler to try to blend the finish. So I think that'll work. Get that in the stress relief soon with the next batch. Okay, this is it. Turned out looking good. Still wet. That'll dry out soon. Fixing to package it and get it in the mail. This is Jason McDonald. For those of you who don't know, he makes a lot of equipment deliveries, and this particular machine here is going to my friend Lance. He had to make a stop here and drop off some items that I had purchased from my friend Andrew Alexander, the blacksmith tools out of Dallas, Texas. And that's these items here. 2 ladles and a molding machine, which dates back to the 1920s or 1930s possibly. I will be building a cupola furnace either next year or into the year after that will be proportionate for this size ladle. So yes, I'm putting the cart before the horse, but that's the way things work sometimes. But anyway, I had posted a little bit about this on my community page last week, giving everybody a hint of what's coming. And I did some tests on it. The valve needs some work on it, so I took it off, bypassed it to make sure the cylinder still operates. Now, I don't know much about the schematics on this. For you old-time foundrymen who have actually messed with this equipment, I'd like to hear from you and get your input, especially if you've done any maintenance to these, because I do not have any kind of drawings that show the breakdown I would really like to understand how this works. I don't think my jolt table is working, and that's the problem. That's oil that you see blowing out the side of it. I had to clean that cylinder out. It had mud in it. But yeah, I'm going to actually use this thing. Hopefully it'll help produce, hopefully it'll help in my production. The valve does need some work. Pushing down on it will energize the cylinder, the main squeeze cylinder. And if I'm right, when you let off on it at that free state, it exhausts the air. So here's the ladles again, and you can get a little better idea of the size of them. These will have liners in them. You wouldn't be pouring iron directly into that. It would have a protective refractory liner. But with dogs sitting there, you can kind of get an idea how big they are. So with this, I'm going to end up having to put a bridge crane in, but none of that is going to happen until I finish the molding room addition. I hope all of you enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll stay safe and healthy, and like and subscribe if you haven't already to keep up with all current projects going on here at Windy Hill Foundry. Until next time, have a good day.